kind of being used, like you said, as a commodity, but also like kind of as like just a tool, right? Like you're a tool with a specific purpose, and like stuff outside of that purpose is not within your purview. That can be, speaking as somebody who has kind of experienced an environment like that. I feel like this is one of the instances where the unique psychic pressure that a lot of people of color experience comes into play, because it's similar to the kind of oppressive like nature that we feel, right? Where you're being limited, you're being kind of suppressed and like put into like a very specifically shaped box. You know, that's kind of the experience of being a person of color. Like we've been talking about it this whole time about the Asian American label, or like, you know, how a lot of things get erased, right? Like, and just ignored about you individually and you as a group or a member of a group. So when you're in an environment then that kind of reinforces that through saying, you know, like, this is what we want you to do, we don't want you to do anything outside of that. Well, if something outside of that arises, right, if you have a thought about something outside of that, then what do you have to do then to do your job well according to them? You have to suppress it. Right? Like you have to just hold on to it and just, or just like do the exact same thing that you're doing, right? All the time. So you're just increasing that psychic pressure on yourself by engaging in that as well. And the environment is reinforcing you to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've actually, I mean, it's kind of a good point too, that you've made. I mean, personally, actually, throughout my career, it's been hard to even like in meetings or whatever else. I mean, people will like happily like step over whatever I'm saying, for example, and I couldn't really pinpoint exactly why, and then I just kind of realized that it's probably maybe because of my race, maybe because of something else. I'm not really sure, but over time, I remember having to change myself to some degree as a person, like, you know, just to fit and just to have my voice heard, just for technical things, right? Even just getting my voice heard for technical implementation related things.
And, you know, so like, I mean, someone with your kind of like storied career here in 13 years, you know, and you're rising through the ranks, I mean, it's got to be internally like a little bit of a conflict for you, right? Because like you're obviously skilled at your work, you're obviously knowledgeable, and like you're rising and whatnot, but then at the same time you're having this experience where in meetings you're getting talked over and your like opinions or like your expertise is being kind of just like overlooked. So like, how do you even deal with those conflicting two things?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I just have to kind of handle it like with grace to some degree. I can't like, I mean, so again, thank God, like for my current job or whatever, like my boss is amazing. Like one of the rare bosses that I would like go to the ends of the earth to like follow if she like ends up finding a different job or something. Because she recognized like immediately, which honestly, it was like one of the first times like I've ever experienced this in my whole career, where someone was challenging me on something as if like I didn't know anything about a particular subject I was talking about, and she noted it before I even brought it up. Because like I deal with that shit all the time, you know what I mean?
Wait. She noticed it as an observer?
Yeah, as an observer.
Wow. And she spoke up about it right then and there?
She didn't speak up about it right there and then, but I believe she brought it up with him in private, I believe. And she actually brought that up during her one-on-one meeting. And I was like, oh, fuck. I thought, me personally, I thought nothing of it. like it was like a very light challenge to like my knowledge base. Like it was like it, there's obviously disagreements about like technical implementation or like, opinions about something, but like this was like a full on like questioning my knowledge, right? And I was just like, all right, I mean, I'm just gonna like ignore like that portion of it, and I'm just gonna continue explaining like the technical aspect of like how I understand this problem. And
Grace, there's your grace, man. Handling it with grace.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I've had previous experiences where I have like tried to actually confront someone after. There's this one really egregious example actually where a couple years ago, I scheduled a meeting to basically gather information from developers about some stuff, right? Like I was just trying to do a little bit of research before I like was designing some internal system or something. And my coworker on my team, he ended up making me his demo boy all of a sudden, where he just completely deep sixed my entire meeting. And he took it over and he made me present a demo that I wasn't, it was completely different from like what the meeting was about. So I had to come up with something all of a sudden because he just completely took over my meeting. And then I confronted him over it, like over Slack. I was like, look, man, that's not cool. Like you can't do this. And then he basically was like, well, you should have had a demo ready. So I don't know why it's my problem. Like, maybe it's, maybe you should have a demo ready next time. And I was like, okay, no, I can't let this shit stand, dude. But
so what did you do?
I told my boss about it, honestly. But I mean, I think I also was like a little bit more comfortable with talking to my boss because he was Dominican. I don't know. I was just like, all right, maybe it'll go over a little bit easier.
And did it?
Yeah, he talked with him and smoothed it over, I guess, a little bit. But yeah, that was like one really egregious incident. And there's other ones too where it hasn't gone even as well as that, right? Where, again, it cost one particular example cost me my job. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, it just goes back to something I say often on this channel, which is that the impacts of living in a toxic racial environment, right, which I would argue that all of us in America live in, and this is, at your home, at your work, out in the environment, whatever. I would say that the consequences range, right, from 0 to like death, And so that is the kind of root of the anxiety that a lot of people feel because you don't know what's going to happen, like you can't predict, the outcome. So, for instance, and that's why you end up having to take kind of the position that you've done, which is to respond with grace, because that's really your only option, otherwise, well, any other option anyway is going to put yourself at significant risk. That's like basically the story. So, that's why a lot of people end up, developing anxiety, because that is a very difficult position to exist in, especially in a workplace, especially in a competitive workplace, right? Yeah. So you definitely don't want to be rocking the boat. You definitely don't want to be like, stepping out of line. And then even when you're disrespected or someone's being unprofessional towards you, you don't want to be seen as the kind of troublemaker. Now, of course, all employees, feel that kind of way, right? But like the point is, we have all this extra stuff. And so that on top of it, it reinforces what we already have. So that's kind of the only point that I want to make sure that everyone at least takes away from that part of the conversation is like, there is stuff going on with people, and it's not just about race, right? Like, of course, this is in a lot of different contexts, but we don't know what people are going through, right? And what perspective they've gained through the trauma they've experienced and, you know, hopefully overcame or are working through, right? Like, everyone has a unique perspective and experience that brings something to the table. And what we need to do, all of us, is to make sure that we're open to hearing and communicating and learning about those perspectives. And I think that's kind of the stage that we're at, right? Where people are now starting to become more open to hearing about them, seeing the value in them. And it's kind of like the Agile quote that we were reading. It's like people are realizing that there's value in connecting and cooperation and through collaboration and learning together. Thanks for watching. For access to the full-length conversation and all of the 2-hour-long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support, and see you next time.